Hey guys, it's your friend No Name Trapper here with another episode of Real Talk. I know we've been talking a lot of trap mechanics lately on the Real Talk, but I think it's very important that you guys can take away some of this information or at least see different things and form your own opinion for the system for your trap line to get you the most fur. So today's episode is going to be about trap pans on your footholds. Okay, your pan on your footholds varies in size, and there's anything from small pans, medium-sized pans to large pans on footholds. And I don't have any large pans on hand, so what I'm going to do is just describe the pros and cons for each one. We'll actually start out with the smallest, okay? And this is just a 1.5 that the pan got messed up, and so during season I needed all my 1.5s working, so I put a number 1 long spring pan on there to get by. You guys see how small that is, okay? So the downside to that small of a pan is you see all the gaps around here, right? A raccoon could even put a front foot right through here and not fire off this trap. The pan is what fires the trap. A mink could walk all over this a lot of times and never fire this trap. Okay, so a small pan definitely has its downsides. Now, if you do get them to step on that smaller pan, typically you get a really deep catch. Okay, so that may be one upside to it. I do think, however, you'll miss a lot of fur with a smaller pan. Okay, here, actually I'll set this one. This is a standard Duke 1.5 with a standard pan on it. I'm going to show you multiple sizes here. So this is your standard 1.5 pan, and I like this size for a 1.5 because there is a gap all the way around. So if that animal, it's a bigger pan, so your chances of firing off the trap and catch the animal are a little higher. But there's a gap all the way around, which is very important for making sure that the trap fires up properly and it's not impeded by the actual animal's foot stepping on the jaw and the pan at the same time. So that's why it is nice on the standard pans that they've got a gap all the way around. Okay, so that's your standard pan. Here's a no BS 1.5. Now I do love these traps, however they're not designed with the way I would use them. See, I run a lot of dry land blind sets. I think they were designed more for pocket sets. Now, however, I've caught a lot of fur with them on dry land, and they will hold anything. I do love these traps, so don't think I'm not saying that. These are phenomenal traps. The pan is bigger, okay? So what happens several times, at least in my experience, is a cat, like a bobcat, would step on the pan and the jaw itself at the same time, and then it tries to fire and it kicks off the cat's foot, or it'll grab onto what little's still in that area if it fires fast enough, and usually that's just a toe. Now, with that being said, this pan is phenomenal, especially for like mink. So this is a little bigger than a standard Duke 1.5 pan, so there is a lot of pros to this size pan, and I do like it. I just think I would like a bigger gap if I was using it for like a blind set and wanting to catch cats, right? But that doesn't mean you can't catch cats with it, because you sure can. It increases your chances by having a bigger pan of firing that trap, so that is something to remember. So this just above maybe your standard size pan on like a 1.5. Okay. Then we're gonna move up to this is a Bridger number 2 Dogless. Okay, so I really like this, and these are some of the first I bought, powder coated them orange. Now what I do like is the pan's a good size, but it leaves a nice gap all the way around. So if an animal steps on it, you're still likely to get your catch. Also, you're not as likely to kick off the foot. You guys can see the nice gap all the way around there. Now, since I don't have a big pan on hand, I do plan on buying some and testing them out. But there's pros and cons to them, and I feel like I'd like to thank my friend Mark Bass for reminding me of some possible cons. Because sometimes I want to commit to something, I see an idea and I just go all in, and that's not always the way you want to go. So for instance, if I was going to run 100 let's say cat traps. A lot of guys switch to the bigger pans for cat trapping because it does increase your chance of that cat stepping on the pan and firing it off. Now, the cons to a big pan, and if you can imagine a pan that goes all the way around, just leaving a very small gap, if any, just enough for the jaws to fire up around. So imagine no gap almost all the way around. Okay, is when that animal steps on it, they're likely to step on the jaws and the pan at the same time. Now, like I said before, when the trap fires up in that scenario, it's either going to kick them off or it's going to grab what little bit it can. And in that case, it would typically be like a toe. So you increase your chances of kickoffs and toe catches. With that, however, you do increase the chances of your trap firing. Now, if I were to get a bigger pan, I'd still like to leave a decent gap, and I would probably four-coil these so it closes faster. Okay, that's just kind of my thoughts, but I like to play in the middle. This is a good sized pan. They really thought this through on this bridge or two, and so when it fires, you're very likely to get your catch, right? And a nice deep catch, not a kick out, or a toe catch or whatever. So pan size does matter, no matter which brand of trap you're running, and that's something I think you guys should factor in when deciding your system. So that's it for today, guys. We talked pan tension last time. Today we're talking pan size, and I really hope you can take away something from these 4 different traps that I showed you here, and put it into play on your line. You know, at the end of the day, we want to be efficient. I feel like efficiency is something we should all chase out there, because you're already spending the gas, you've got the maintenance on your trucks, you know, you got your traps, you got your lure, you got just all these things, your stakes, your wolf things or whatever. At the end of the day, if you're not putting a good system into play, an efficient system, you're gonna miss fur, and I don't want that for any of you guys. So alright guys, that's just another episode of Real Talk. Tight chains out there, and I hope to see you on down the line.